plan was pretty much what President Obama wanted to do. What is different, Wolf, is the clock. And the clock is ticking a lot faster right now, and you see that with today's launch.
So when we hear that this missile was launched about an hour and a half or so ago from a land-based missile, and it landed in the Sea of Japan, East Sea, according to a U.S. official, tells our Pentagon reporter Ryan Brown. Does that sound like it was a successful launch?
It's too soon to tell. Well, that is a big chunk of water out there, and so without knowing where in the Sea of Japan it landed, it's difficult to be able to determine.
But it's a lot more successful than a missile that exploded within a few seconds after being launched.
Clearly, but it's still, until we know more about the missile that was launched, the trajectory, and what the military was tracking, it's a little too soon to say how successful it was. Regardless, as I said before, there's no such thing as failure for this guy. Every time he does one of these things, whether it goes far or doesn't go far, he learns and he adapts, and he then builds that into the next launch.
Gloria, you know, this launching of this ballistic missile follows the words of the President of the United States in this extraordinary interview with Reuters, in which he says, quote, "There is a chance that we could end up having a major conflict with North Korea." Absolutely. Those are strong words.
It's not comforting,
yeah,
honestly. It is not comforting. You know, one thing about Donald Trump is he tells you exactly what he's thinking very often. I'm not sure a president should always do that, but he did in this time. And I'm wondering what China's response is going to be now to this.
Yeah.
Because, you know, the administration has, less so in recent days, but they've been talking about how the Chinese are going to be our allies in this and how they're going to get tougher, and I'd like to see their response.
Do not think for a moment that part of the messaging here by Kim is to message Beijing on this.
Exactly.
To message Beijing and Washington.
Absolutely.
And of course, Seoul, South Korea. He's sending a message all over the place.
Yeah, but and look, China in just recent days were saying that they're going to toughen up. They might enact some unilateral sanctions. They've been saying publicly that they're going to, come to the table internationally. So don't think for a minute that he isn't also trying to message Beijing.
Nia, listen to the president in this Reuters interview suggesting once again he didn't think this was necessarily going to be as hard as it turned out to be.
Well, I loved my previous life. I had so many things going. I actually, this is more work than in my previous life. I thought it would be easier. I thought it was more of I'm a details-oriented person. I think you would say that. But I do miss my old life. I like to work, so that's not a problem. But this is actually more work.
Yeah, I mean, really stunning in some ways to hear him say that. He, of course, as a candidate, did talk about how easy it would be to do any number of things. He talked about how stupid the people were who were in office and they weren't able to get things done. But it really is a stunning admission for him to say this is a lot more work. And the idea that he, in some ways, seemed to like his previous life more. He doesn't sound very happy at this point in the White House. And in some ways, he sort of sounds like a second-term president, right, who's already sort of frustrated by the job, already in kind of lame duck status and not sure that he's going to be able to get anything done. But this is a president we know is going to have to learn on the job, and he's certainly telling everybody how difficult that learning is.
I mean, is he saying he's not prepared for the job, that he wasn't prepared for the job? That's sure what it sounds like to me.
Although most presidents are not prepared for the job because it is such a unique job. There's nothing like it. No one would think it was easy except maybe Donald Trump, because he has this he's very self-assured. Yeah. I think anyone could say that about Donald Trump. And it's possible he didn't contemplate the scope. I mean, you think of the presidency maybe in broad brushstrokes. You don't think that in addition to issues like North Korea, you're going to have to be dealing with lumber trade issues with Canada. And so for someone who wasn't necessarily in politics, who wasn't in government, who was just looking at this from an outsider's perspective, you could see how it could be a much bigger, much broader job than you ever expected. You
served in the U.S. Navy for a long time. You're retired now. You were the Pentagon spokesman, the State Department spokesman. People hear what the president is saying, what the North Korean leader Kim Jong-un and his regime are saying, the reaction from China, the reaction from South Korea, from Japan, and there's understandable nervousness.
There should be, quite frankly. Look, I fully agree with Admiral Harris, who in testimony the other day said that the situation is as tense, the most tense he's ever seen. And there's a man with a lot of experience in the region as well. This is a serious problem. And it's nice, I think it's good to see that everybody's taking it that way. way, that there is a sense of urgency at the White House and on the national security team. It is not helped, and I agree with Gloria here, it's not helped by bellicose rhetoric by the commander-in-chief. I understand the need to try to be ambiguous and to try to put people off their balance. But when you're doing that with Kim Jong-un, it's significant, and I think he has run a very deliberate, measured national security process on North Korea. They have a lot to be proud of the way they've approached this as a team. It's not helped by him going out there making these comments.
And it's almost as if he's kind of drawing his own red line here by talking in such a saber-rattling way. And we, of course, saw how that worked out with President Obama when he drew the red line with Syria. So it's not the most helpful thing, because now there's sort of this expectation that they follow through. And they've also said the era of strategic patience is over, even though we seem to still be in the era of strategic patience. So there's a lot of this mixed messaging that's not helpful.
This is how being a real estate mogul does not prepare you to be president of the United States, which is when you do a real estate deal, as Donald Trump did many, many times, he would walk out of the negotiations and say, done.